We are live. We are live and on mobile here. I am Lynn, and I don't know where our names are. I must have. Oh, that's because I have that caption. I'm Lynn Serrano, and who are you?
I'm Brian Kelm. Hey.
Yay! Hey, welcome to our show. Actually, I put that up there, but truly, yesterday we talked about what lessons you've learned from coaches and teachers in our life. And so now we're turning into a topic here as far as why are people unwilling to confront themselves in life? And I'm pretty excited to get talking about that. But right now, we might lose Brian, we might not. But this is real and raw, and life happens, and we're making time out to spend our time with you guys too. So we're just flowing with it, guys. So there we go. We'll get him here going. So how are you doing, Brian? Are you still mobile? Can you hear me? Yeah. He's reconnecting himself, I think, back to his area here. So I just finished a great show and I came over here and oh shoot, you know what? I did moving stages or something else. So I'm kind of laughing because I didn't change my ambiance here, man. So I'm gonna change that right here, right now. See, we're getting situated. There we go. Boy, I'll tell you, going from one scenery to the next, sometimes it can be interesting. I am here with Brian. You can't see him yet, but he'll be back. This is the Real and Raw show, and we're just getting real. We're just getting raw, and sometimes you have technical difficulties. But we are going to talk about why are people unwilling to confront themselves in lives. If you guys want to chime in and tell me where you're checking and timing, clicking in, falling in, whatever. I've been in the Clubhouse way a lot, so that's usually audible. And now I'm here at visual. So do you find yourself being unwilling to confront some questions that you know you need to in life? Or am I just the only one? I'm the only one on set right now. How about that? Oh my goodness. So I feel like crickets are going on. I know one person's watching, so just put a comment in there, say hi, let us know that you're watching. That would be great. And it's really a hard topic sometimes, but we forget the only ones we're with 24/7 is ourselves, right? So we got to realize that we should have those tough questions to answer to ourselves, because if we don't answer them, who's going to answer them for you? Who's going to make decisions in your life for you? We forget that it is our life and we have the right to do anything we want with it. And so you need to take some ownership and confront yourself on some tough things that you know about yourself and be willing to change them, accept them, but still love yourself. That's about all I can say on that. And I hope this makes sense to someone. I'd love to hear from you. I appreciate that. And I'm sure Brian will be here momentarily. 4 minutes in, I could do a little dance for you. I do have to get some TikToks in. No, just kidding. Has anyone else been on the Clubhouse? If you're part of the Clubhouse when you're watching this, put your Clubhouse name down or let me know, and I'd love to follow you on the Clubhouse way. That would be awesome. So, and let's see, tomorrow's question, I don't even want to bring that up yet, but it's right here, and I'm just live all by myself. Ain't nobody watching. Oh, this is so funny. I do have more color in my cheeks today because I've been fighting a cold. And if you watch yesterday's show, you'll notice I didn't even have this much color. I usually have color in my face, and I didn't. So I'm feeling better, and that's it. So I'm waiting for some guests here, somebody to partake with me in the conversation of being real and raw. There he is.
Yo.
I was just trying to almost do a song and dance or something for them because it's got crickets. Nobody watching right now wondering what's Lynn doing. I just changed my scenery like right in at the beginning of the show. It's like it's all this work. So welcome back, Brian.
Yeah. My apologies, everyone. StreamYard does not work well with mobile devices. So moving on.
Yes. Take note for next time.
Yep.
Anyhow, so the topic we got here, why are people unwilling to confront themselves? I'll let you take it away there, my friend. My energy still is not where it should be. Oh, you can't hear me? Make sure
There we
you okay.
There we go. Okay.
So
Now I can hear you.
all right. So why are people unwilling to confront themselves in their life? Personally, I think it's all the excuses we give ourselves.
Yep.
And all the other things that we fill our mind to preoccupy us from actually thinking. And so I think that when you find yourself, whether it's watching TV or at work or this or that, we go through thousands of thoughts a day. And it's just the matter of choosing not to confront ourselves. There's so much stuff that can fill the time. So take it away, my friend.
Well, and how many of those actual thoughts that we go through are actually about sales or about, the negativity or what I don't have versus what I do have, the messages are made in such a way where it's more about something that we're missing versus something that we actually have, right? That's why we have to seek it. And that's why, whatever it is, it's positioned in such a way like, ooh, I want to be that model, or I want to be that, that performance person, or I want to be better at comedy or whatever it is, and so there's an absence of it that if we have whatever that is, and, the companies are masterful at that.
Right.
That is their business to know what the hot buttons are, what's going to put people into a vulnerable state and make them want to take action without any guarantee that it's going to work.
Well, and that's just it. Nobody ever takes action anymore.
Right.
They feed themselves the carbs or the fluff, but they're not getting the protein and nutrition they need for their brains,
Correct.
for their brains and body to function the correct way so that they can be more, healthier. So
Well, and they give up on themselves that it's like, well, I can't be like that person. Well, if you keep saying that, of course, that's going to be true because, remember what Henry Ford said in the 50s, what was it? It's slipping my mind right now, but it's like, whatever, something degree of like, whatever you believe or don't believe,
you're always right. Yeah. It's
Correct.
a Think and Grow Rich.
Yep.
As well too. And I was talking to my guest on my other show, Elizabeth, today about that, so I told her you never say never kind of thing, so I'll say I'll never be a billionaire. And if I can use the negative to get the positive, I'll take it. So I'm never going to be a millionaire. I'd rather think that thought than the other nevers, because I'll tell you what, a lot of nevers I've said have come true. So I'm never going to be a billionaire. Forget the millions. I'm never going to be a billionaire.
Well, and for our topic today, everything is traced back to how we think. What fuel do we give our brain? Obviously it takes our body's fuel to function, but what fuel are we giving our brain, every day through meditation or scripture, or whether it's reading something positive for 15 minutes a day? What are we doing every day to fuel our brain so that we can fuel others with our thoughts and with our actions?
Absolutely. And that's definitely a big deal is you can't get any good stuff. They usually say what comes in goes out, but that's not true because every negative, every terrible thing that you continue to breathe in doesn't come out. And if it comes out to be more poison. So,
Well, and once that mindset, once a scarcity mindset is created in the brain, nothing is ever going to be good enough. That's why people work relentlessly to try to achieve something that is not possible.
Right. And that's what Glenn Morshower even says, goals are outside of you, And instead, you should be natural at your nature. And I'm messing that part up. But
Well,
you know,
what a lot of people don't realize is that when it comes to the final product or somebody that looks great because they've been working out, they don't give you the play-by-play because most people would never subscribe to that, right?
and even if they subscribe, ain't nobody gonna take actions to do that.
No.
So
That's why there's a false sense of reality when it comes to a lot of this stuff, because it's like, oh, like for instance, in the wedding industry, when somebody looks at a beautiful bouquet, they have no idea how many times that bouquet was photographed, with the lighting, any description about what the flowers are, the amount of labor it took to create that.
right.
They
Yeah.
just know that they want it, but they have no idea what it's going to cost, any of that. you
Oh
know?
yeah. Wait, what? Huh? Yeah, exactly. There's something goes in creating anything from, like you said, something beautiful as that to just thoughts. I mean, your thoughts become things, and the things that you may want or not have, and I like Ray Higdon's book because he talks about weeding out the weeds, of things, of the stuff that you don't want. I mean, anytime you plant anything, there's going to be weeds around it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if those weeds get in the root of the seed that you're building, they can rot that seed out before it even flourishes, and people just don't get that.
Correct. Yep.
So you had a story as far as this topic.
Yeah, this whole topic and whatnot, after running it by Lynn, she liked it obviously because we're doing it today, but it all came out of somebody's resistance to take a body of training from somebody that they knew but were not. They never did the training. Okay, and so probably about 6 or 9 months ago, there was 2 of my trainers that I've done 10 workshops with. Now, the distinction between a seminar and a workshop is you're honing a skill. You're up at a microphone, in my case, for Master of Ceremonies training, and you're being videotaped. It's intense, and you have to give of yourself, right? That's the only way you get better from a performance realm, is if you do the work, right? And you willingly give up any ego or arrogance or superiority complex.
Constructive criticism.
Yeah.
You have to take some.
And I was on a podcast and I listened to it, and this gentleman, who remained nameless, is like, they need, he was going through last year. So this is a year ago. He goes through all the training that he wants to do. And he was going through, and he mentioned this couple's name, and I'm like, and he didn't have good things to say about him. Now, on either side of him, he knows people that has done their training and benefited greatly, and also people that haven't done their training, right? The one fact remains is that it's all hearsay until you do it yourself, right? It amazes me about when the rubber meets the road, do the course and then make your completion, right?
Right.
And he had bad things to say about him, and I time coded the actual episode. I sent it to the couple that does the training, and I spent the next week or two going through my brain of every single excuse I've heard over the years about why people don't train, why they don't develop. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden it came to me when I'm at a class one night in person, when we did those, remember those? And and it came to me as like, this person is unwilling to confront themselves. That when you go into a room and you're paying money, especially if you got a plane flight, you got travel, you got lodging, that you're not only just giving up your ego, you're giving up like that, what you're doing, really, like your beginner's mind. If you really want to put yourself out there, it has to come from a place of nothing, right?
Right. You have to be coachable.
Correct. And that is what's fueled me to be like, wow, the one thing that'll hold anybody back in any discipline, any coach, any training, because I ran it through hundreds of different objections and things I've heard, is that they are unwilling to confront themselves. Because if they took a deep dive into the way that they appear to themselves, they might not like what they see.
Right.
But that's the greatest lifetime gift you can give yourself, if you are willing to deal with what shows up and then do something about it.
Right.
And it was powerful for me to do that deep dive, but then to know it's like, wow, that's going to be resistance for people where you're going to have people that go through it and do the training and development and seek a higher standard, and those that don't. That right there that goes to the core and the root of why people don't train or develop, is that they are unwilling to confront themselves because they can't control what's going to come. They're not comfortable dealing with not knowing what their dollars and by their work now, what it's going to generate or propel them to do in the future.
And that's funny, because it's like, the show today, who knows? We'll probably get a lot of people skip this show today. And you know why? Because they're like, shit, I don't want to confront myself. And I definitely don't want Lynn or Brian to be, picking on my brain. And that's okay.
Yeah,
this might be something they might not watch till later on, and we don't know where the fruition to it. But it's worth talking about and being real about, because this is something, as just being human beings, we got to deal with every day.
Yep.
You got to take a minute and step outside yourself. And you know what? I didn't even share this on my page. That's okay. They won't know what happened. They won't know what happened earlier.
Yeah. Well, hey, we're raw and real. I'll just know from now on, don't do mobile on StreamYard.
Yeah, I know, but
no excuses moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm looking for pages here. My pages.
Well, and here's the thing: is that confronting yourself is not about one thing, right? And it's definitely not to make anybody feel defensive. It's just, if you're willing to look, that's the beginning part.
Right.
But also, though, don't consider not being in denial about something that you're not willing to look at, because it's like, when my dad passed away unexpectedly over 10 years ago, I could either crawl underneath a rock and disregard that it happened, right? And just kind of move away from life for a while, or I could confront it head on and eventually come to some clarity and some freedom.
Right.
What would you rather do? Would you rather complete it forever and do it the right way without sacrifice, or just be in denial about it, and then you might never come to peace with it, and it might affect your attitude and behavior forever?
Yeah, you've got to be humble and be willing to say, hey, we're not I don't like that word perfect, but we're not
we're not flawless human beings. We're not flawless beings.
Yeah, we evolve every day. Every day we have another, layer of being. And I finally just shared it to my page, so maybe I get some people to watch this. I don't know.
There we go.
But we have to be open to our self-criticism, but not where you're beating yourself, but to use it for the greater good of, okay, are you acceptable where you're at? Are you willing to accept what you're doing? Yeah. And if you're fine with it, then that's fine. Don't change it. But if you don't like it, then you need to change it. And look, we finally got somebody watching us because I shared it on my page. Thank you for showing up. I felt like dead space here. So thank you so much. Yeah. But again, it's one of those things where we do not want to confront ourselves in our life. And yet nobody knows whether, like I could be sitting here with Brian and I could be confronting myself with Brian right here. Ain't nobody know that you're doing it, but do it for yourself. We're not wanting anybody to feel bad about this topic. We're wanting you to nudge you to say, have you done this? Are you willing to do this? And if you're watching us, just say hi. We appreciate knowing who's watching.
Well, and here's the thing is that if you say to yourself, yes, I will confront myself, it's a day-by-day thing. It's not an overnight success.
Exactly.
But you're also number one, willing to be vulnerable with yourself. Number two is that you're just open to that something's going to come to you, right? And it usually does. It doesn't take very long, but you have to first be willing to give up that it's like, okay, I don't know how to do this, or it's going to be a lot of work or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, if you look at something and never do anything about it, of course it's going to be overwhelming at first. It's like anything, a book is not written in a day. A book is written page by page, right? Or, the time allocation per day, like 2 pages a day, and eventually you've got a book, right? Going to the gym, you go one day, then you go another day, and you have the peaks and valleys about how you feel about that.
Well, I want to challenge people to start thinking, anytime you get a negative thought about yourself, think about it, say, okay, so I think I'm an asshole. Okay, well, maybe what's one less thing you can do than being an asshole? I mean, the point is be constructive criticism, and if it's something that keeps nugging at you that's really bothering you, just change it. Don't ignore it. Confront yourself and say, okay, that was yesterday, that was a minute ago, let's change it. And it's just like when you meet somebody and you find something that you really like about them, and you're like, oh man, I like how Brian says, hi Lynn, how are you, blah blah blah. I mean, like, be conscientious of it and try to change those habits, but don't do them all in one day.
Or possibly even like maybe change is too big of a word, and I get it. It might be semantics, but it might be easier for people to reframe it to be like, what's another way?
Yeah, that's
You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
change to some people is a little bit too tough, and it might be semantics. I get it, depending
Yeah.
on where you come from. But how can you be easy on yourself, but also though get access? Because like some people, change might appear like how resolutions appear, where it's like, well, to me personally, resolutions imply that there's something wrong. Well, there's evidence of why people don't resolve things because it's negative, right? Or it's perceived
Right.
as negative. So change might be something that is a burden to people versus reframing it to whatever works for you from a standpoint of like, what's there for me to, what am I not seeing here right now?
Right.
What's a different point of view I could take on this, and maybe that might be a little lighter to get the wheels turning about how you could actually put that out into the world and believe in yourself enough to make that happen.
Well, if you'll notice, I'm getting a little bit pale again. I'm just not feeling good, but I'm pushing through here. So, because it's no excuse, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be present the best I can. So, I mean, sometimes you just got
I
to
think we need to
deal.
dance, Lynn. I think we need to dance.
I know, right? Embarrass me. I'll get some color back in these cheeks. But seriously, what I was going to say is like this whole Clubhouse thing, which you need to download and get with it, because I'm not seeing you that I'm following you or whatever. But the Clubhouse is an audio thing, and I wish it was also on the
Android.
other platform, Android. It's not at the moment. But one thing I'm realizing is that I can be silly here, goofy. You see the visual, that's only a certain percentage. But over there, I realize that I'm picking and choosing my words a little bit different, because you're just all I have for people to see who I am is my voice.
Mhm.
And like I said, I wish that my singing voice was back, but I have this voice that I'm supposed to use to speak out. So I actually had the honor of being to talk on stage and on Adrian and Tom Chenault's group, and I was pretty honored. But man, the people that were in that group were some of the people that I plan to be interviewing, and some of the people that have interviewed, and among some who's who. So I was pretty humbled by that. But then I would question myself, saying, I don't think that I should be going up to the stage till I have my folio, my profile just right, or I'm more polished. And I'm like, you know what? They're either going to find out who I am, and and I can correct myself if I'm not happy with that. I can, instead of being all excited and nervous, I can just slow my talk down some and take my time what I'm going to do. So it's challenging because it's a different platform, and so does that mean I get myself excuses of not to be there and not to talk when
Right.
people shout me out and want me to talk? I'm like, I can't do that because you can't see me. No, I'm out of my comfort zone, and that's okay. But it's a huge honor. I've got some well-known people asking to be in my podcast now, and so I'm pretty humbled. But this is a girl that never did an Instagram. I have 30 pictures that I think a compilation of the last 5 years on my Instagram. I mean, I'm being followed by like 668 people, and can I just tell you, 2 days ago I was being followed by, I don't know, 200.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I haven't been ready for fame, but fame is here, and
Mhm.
I'm going with it. I'm
Yeah.
going with it, and because like I said, I'll never be a billionaire, because never says never always happens. So that's gonna be my new thing. I'm never gonna be a billionaire. Because I'm going to prove that someday, you guys.
So everybody that's tuning in, to recap just a few of the different ways, or a few of the different reasons why people are unwilling to confront themselves, is because it's uncomfortable. Number two is that their ego might be getting in the way. Number three is their pride might be getting in the way. Number four is, at least from my point of view, is that they don't know what it's going to look like. You know, just like life, it's not scripted. You live it day by day, right? And they don't want to. They're content with where they are from whoever loves them, right? Because it fulfills their ego. But if you're willing to confront yourself, you know, in the coaching realm, you don't know what the other person is going to say or do that might knock you down a couple pegs, but it's not personal, right? If somebody is paying for training or putting themselves into an environment where they're going to be coached, whatever it is, well, there is going to be improvement and growth if you are vulnerable enough to want that, right? So,
and just on the premise of all that, I mean, I thank you for tuning in with us, and you might not agree or want to confront yourself, and that's okay. You know, we're okay with that. But we want you to realize that instead of thinking when some thought comes up, beating yourself over the head about it, realize you don't need to do that no more.
Right.
Think about it and take a side note and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? If I don't like it, maybe I should change it. Or, you know, we don't need to be stuck where we're at. Never, ever.
You know, and one thing I want to be very clear to everybody is that we're not trying to change anybody or, you know, make anybody feel a certain way. We just know from our lives, Lynn, you and I, is that things get in the way, and at times they're harder than others to get over and overcome, right? And how do you do that without a new point of view or a little leap of faith and some vulnerability? That I'm gonna, you know, what I keep doing is not giving me any access.
Well, good example, like today on my memory wall came up a memory of my brother singing. And, you know, first it's just like, you know, my sister-in-law puts things up and sometimes I grab them from her wall or this or that. And my brother left a big hole in this world when he left with his music and stuff. So, you know, I could go back and I could be really sad and emotional about it, or I could think something good or realize, you know, it's a blessing that he pops up places so that I, you know. And it's one of those things, you know, I mean, 5 years ago, my life changed. I mean, the first 5 years of my 50s have been something else, but I've allowed those things to, I didn't confront the fact that, you know, where I was at or where I was going. And he impacted a lot of people. And now I'm like, shit, he died at 57. I'm at 55, you know, and if God gives me 2 years to die at the same time my brother did, fine. We'll, you know, siblings always, and you wouldn't know this because you didn't have siblings, I'm sorry, but siblings always compete with one another. And we have that competition going. So he impacted a lot of lives. I'm 2 years, you know, where I'm at, I got to compete with him before I go to heaven and say, well, I gave him my best, bro.
So,
I mean,
so since we're real and raw, what were the biggest things that, what were the biggest parts of his passing that you had to confront, you know, that took the longest to overcome?
Well, you know, my brother was no saint by no means, but he was very Christian. I mean, when things didn't go right in his life, he was there with God, and he's definitely a testament of, you know, being there for other people when he may have had a past at times where, you know, it wasn't perfect. He wasn't perfect, but he realized that, you know, it's just like he had over 450 people and he had some well-known celebrities at his funeral and stuff. And it goes to show you that, you know what, he didn't waste time with those that judged him. He showed up, gave love, gave music, showed he was human, but he also showed without God, he wouldn't have been anything.
Yeah.
And the fact that if he would have stayed around people that were judging him and bringing him down all the time, he wouldn't have had an impact on this world like he did. And so with good, there comes with bad. And the fact that my brother could say, hey, I'm human, I'm not perfect, but I'm going to love the people that love me, and those that don't understand me are going to judge me from my past. So he's been a great testament that way.
Yeah.
And, and I think it just comes with time, because, I got to a point where you could go to him with some drama and he's like, I don't want to hear it. Like he was so above from hearing any friction of any negativity. And I'm like, but he's my brother. He's supposed to listen, And, he taught me some valuable lessons in my life. He was tough on me, and he showed me that if he wasn't going to be tough, I would be shocked at how the world would treat me. And the world treated me the way, and I was taught to fight back and stand myself. But again, I didn't want to confront that, because I didn't want to be what I was being taught what the world could be like. So there's just a lot of reflections over the years of how things were and how things are, to have me feel now that I'm empowered with all that stuff, but also just realizing the mortality of my brother impacted so many people, that even just last year when we celebrated his day he passed, here in Billings, Montana, in Florida, there was a stage being he went to restaurants and different things, and he had them build stages so that he could perform. And then they just get to a point where these companies and these restaurants would grow. They would make another stage, and there's several stages in Sarasota area and surrounding places in Florida that have Mark Anthony Roman on there, who is my brother. And so, yeah, it just gives me chills to say that he's still being honored and impacting people even after he's dead. And I could only hope to be just a fraction of that as well.
Yeah. Well, I was on one of my walks that I do every day, and it was it was last year, a couple days after Father's Day, and it was really weird because I was just doing my walk, and I was just doing my thing, and all of a sudden I thought of my dad, and I just had to look up in the sky and tell him I got to let you go.
Oh,
For at that time it would have been 8 years.
yeah.
8 years I held on to that. I had something to do with his death, that he died because of me. And
Yeah.
he died of a massive heart attack. And I just took it upon that, I put his death on me. And all of a sudden I just had to let him go, because I couldn't continue to live life, with that burden, right? Even though it was not true, right?
Yeah.
And that was huge.
Brian, when you said that, I got chills. And when I got chills like that, usually it's something that's outside of me doing that.
Yep.
I don't know what that means for you, except that it was pretty intense when you said that. And letting go of him doesn't mean that he's not in you or with you.
Correct.
But letting go of the fact that you're holding on to that as an excuse is to not live your life.
Right.
I truly know that he's happy that he's with you in the capacity. And our loved ones do stay with us until we're okay.
Yeah.
Until you acknowledge them. Just like when my mom, I was at her bedside before she took her last breath. Now, mind you, I took a Thursday. It was I'd been up all day Thursday, okay? And I found out Thursday that I need to be there because I didn't know how long she'd be. I took a night flight to go be with her. Okay. And actually in 20 days, this has all happened. And I got there, I left Friday. I got there Saturday morning. Now, so you got Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Now I knew at any time she could pass. I knew that I couldn't go to sleep. Mm-hmm. Finally, by Tuesday morning, it was early hours of Tuesday morning. I finally was exhausted because I hadn't slept. I fell asleep for 20 minutes and she passed. But I also told her before that, I said, Mom, as a matter of fact, my brother Mark couldn't make it there. And I said, Mom, Mark's not going to make it, and Eric's on his way. And if you want to go, you can go. And I finally rested. And then my friend Ada woke me up, and she said, Lynn, look. And I'm like, I didn't realize she had passed. I'm like, man, just like they said, she's going to wait till, and that was a really hard thing to go through. But I say all that to say this. My point is that until you can have time to accept or deal with what's going to happen, you know, if they leave, they'll stay with you and be with you in that capacity. And my grandmother, when I was 7 years old, she died, and I would see her in my dreams. I would see her all the time. I didn't want her to leave. She wouldn't talk to me, but she was around, you know. And I mean, people thought I was crazy about that, but no, it's true. I mean, kids can sense that more than adults, because we get tainted that no, you can't feel that, you can't think that, you know, and all that. But the fact that
taboo stuff.
yeah, you know, so I've realized that has served me well, and knowing that that's the other premise of my other show too, is that we've got to show people what they mean to us. And the way we do that is by implementing anything that we like from them, or whatever, in some way to show and pass forward, because that's how they live forever. They live forever by the point, you know, you are epitome of things that your dad has shown you. And now you may have not thought that was value back then, but look at the value and the gold it is to you now that you're present. And that's what people need to realize. When people die, all you think about are the good things. But go back and think about the bad things you went through and realize what a blessing that they were being hard ass on you so that they could teach you the things that the tools you're going to need later in life. Truly, I believe that, guys. I truly feel that. Yeah, so you might think they were an asshole. Think about when they were an asshole, but why? But why? They were trying to teach you something that you yet didn't understand, including, I was in a clubhouse room the other night, and this lady has never had children, and her mom's still alive, and she's had issues with her mom. And I said, listen, you don't have any children, but if you had children, you'd understand why your mom's talking to you the way she is. Until you are. And I'll tell you what, I cannot wait. I hope I live long enough for you to have a child and see that child grow, because you're just going to see everything that you're going to have an understanding that I can't even explain to you, nor do I think I have the right to tell you before you experience it. But after you experience it, I can't wait for the conversations we'll have after.
Yes, and as you're talking, there was a conversation I remember when I was young, and then it was repeated many years later with my dad before he passed, that he goes, Brian, I don't want to be hard on you, but I'm just getting you ready for the real world. You know what I mean? And I want to make sure you thrive in this world. And you know, he saw things before I saw it in myself.
Brian, this is what I talk about, my intuition and prophetic and stuff. Okay. God just gives me things to say to somebody that trigger. Now, we haven't talked about this before, have we not?
Nope.
And yet, what did I do? All I do, people, and just so you know, I always echo things that are within you. It's given to me to give it out, to bring it forth. That's all I do. I don't ask me for freaking lottery numbers. Don't ask me who likes you or not, because I get annoyed when people in my inbox think that, you know, Lynn, I knew you were special. No, that's not what it is. It is just like this. It's parts of me saying things that I just love when people echo back what I like I said, I can't make this shit up. It's just how it is, and it's just how I am.
There was one more piece that comes to mind, is that it wasn't short after my dad passed, is that a buddy of mine, Gary, he has a master's in theology, and he lives right outside of Chicago. And I was talking to him about this, and, you know, everybody's beliefs are different. You know, I believe in a higher power. And he goes, did you love your dad? Because this was a situation where I was never able to say goodbye, right? Because it happened quickly. Right. And my dad and I at that time were not in good terms. You know, we just had a difference of the life I wanted to live and the life he envisioned for me.
Right.
And him and I were not on good terms, and it just stuck with me. And my buddy Gary said, he asked me one question. He goes, did you love your dad? And I said, absolutely. And he goes, that's it. That's all I needed to ask you. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, he heard you. And
you're giving me chills again. I kid you not. I can't make this stuff up.
One of the biggest pieces that gave me clarity and just was like a big, breakthrough and a big balloon going off and some people don't believe this, that's okay. But it's like his spirit left his physical being before he passed. And I'm like, I couldn't, until he said that, I didn't separate the two. I thought the two were married together, and that offered me a lot of peace. That's how his spirit is going to live on, is because it left his being his physical being before he passed. So that gave me a lot of clarity and a lot of peace of mind.
Well, Brian, I've got to tell you that, almost dying, even when I had a full hysterectomy at 29 and I had a little baby girl and 3 little girls. And I mean, I was hemorrhaging. I mean, my stomach flew. I mean, they couldn't give me anything for the pain, but operating rooms were all full. They could barely get me in there. Seriously, like flatline, the whole 9 yards. They told my ex-husband that I wasn't going to make it. I mean, just seriously. But the thing is every day I'm given to leave little pieces and clues for my kids. And, eventually I'm going to evolve and share my mother's story and why it is whatever it is. But the point is I can see what the anger and the things I went through with my mother. I can still see that, she was a tormented soul, and yet she never knew. When people stereotype people, or when people go through things and you don't understand what somebody goes through and you make judgments, it can really, really poison people's spirits to be who they want to be. And again, that's where it comes with my brother. I mean, he couldn't change what people thought of him,
Right.
but he moved on to the people that could love him and accept him. Yeah. And, I'm going to say this, it's raw and real, just like people wonder, Lynn, you were married 3 times, and, I felt unsuccessful there. But, my second marriage, people wondered, why did I get a divorce? But, you can't. 1990, okay? 1990, people, and you 4 people are here on this here. 1990, you didn't dare tell anybody, well, I'm leaving him because he's interested in a guy, okay? You couldn't say that back then, okay?
Right.
So I lived in silence, and yet people seemed to assume, why would you get out of marriage? Why blah, blah, blah? Sometimes things ain't the way you think they are, people. And it's sometimes some stories are to tell and some are not to tell. But it is what it is. And yet you can judge me, 19, 23, and 25 getting married, but you don't know my life. You don't know the hell I've been through. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to share with you guys that perception and knowing and having different angles of things are definitely, we're here for a purpose, and we only have so much time to get things done. And there's been times in my life when I've been in the heart unit a couple times because I was overloaded with lithium that I should have never been on, because they thought I was an emotional because I survived living through death. And yet people just thought you were crazy. And so, it's a matter of, but I could pass every psych test. So you tell me. So I don't give myself excuses for things in life. I always confront them and say, I realized that in my brother's death too, that, you know what? He gave the best show at his funeral. Over 450 people showed up. They came, and, it's a production. Life is a production. Life is what you do. Unscripted. Everything's unscripted. When you have a kid, when you get married, when you break up, I mean, everything's unscripted, yet they're all different. But you know what? The end result, the end narrative is they got married, they got divorced. They got kids, they don't got kids.
It's kind
they
of,
died. I mean, just
it's kind of crazy that you said 450 people. Not like the number matters, right? Because I know, some of our society is driven by numbers. I'm not, but my dad had over 400 people at his funeral, and one of the biggest transformative things for me, because back when he was alive, my world was all about business and having a very rigid, I didn't go out much. I was on my business 24/7, right? And that was my world, right? And because of my near-death experience and him passing away, that opened me up. But there was times when, if he wasn't working or working overtime, he'd be gone for hours at a time. And when I lived at home, and then I moved out, I never understood why he would just go around, because my mind was all, it's got to be an intention. There's a reason, and it wasn't up until he passed away where I realized why he did it. Because it's crazy to say, but by him being in the world, I wasn't able to see the difference that he made. And simply what it was, the reason why I didn't see it, because he didn't have an agenda.
That's right.
His agenda was just go to hang out. Whatever happens, happens. Have a couple beers and catch up like old times with people that matter to him most. The reason why I missed finding it is because it wasn't for anything.
Right.
And who he was in the world is somebody that liked everybody. You know, he told it like it was, based on old school rules, you know, judge of character, integrity, and that's made a profound difference. A couple other pieces too that came out from your sharing about your brother and your experiences of hemorrhaging and children and divorce is too many. If people were to take away one thing from this, is to put down the judgments or set them aside, right? Just put down your sword a little bit, right? Yeah. And if you feel like yourself reaching for a sword or willing to respond to something somebody says or react in such a way without hearing them out first, put the sword down a little bit, right? For understanding why, you know, access that person's world first.
Yeah.
And
well, you know,
it's kind of funny because, well, not funny, but it's like a lot of people want to judge based on a reality that they don't know. Like how somebody lives their day. Somebody might think that that's weird or why would they do that? Well, give that up because that's a judgment. Give that up for possibly, why do you think that way? You know, like if somebody has depression or anxiety, you know, I have both of those.
Me too.
Why would somebody say, well, man, somebody just boarding themselves up in isolation and all that? Why did they do that? Well, you're getting into an assumption loop, right? Why don't you give that up and actually befriend that person or become connected to them, right? Access their world from their side of the fence, not trying to reach over and assume what it is. That means a lot to me because, you know, there's quotes about it in the world, you know, but living one moment in somebody's shoes, right?
And that's exactly right. You know, I've got 3 girls in this world that lived with an interpretation that their mom was crazy and this and that because I was so intuitive, and I was married to somebody that's dad dictated what he thought of me and in the church and all this other stuff, stories for other times. But the point is my daughter, you know, it breaks my heart that I waited so long to take action in getting us out of a situation that we were in. But one thing I'm blessed is I have, you know, my girls still in my life. They love me. They respect me. You know, they
Thank you, Tracy. Yes. Thank you.
You know, they have realized, you know, who I am, and they appreciate the fact that, you know, they know my intentions were of good. And even though they didn't understand a lot of stuff, to realize that, you know, they were monopolized to who their mom was. And all I could do is I could never change the way they thought of me. They could see is consistently who I tried to be. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't until my daughter, she's like, Mom, but why didn't you leave or this and that? And people didn't understand the reason why I had to stay is because when I went through the hysterectomy and almost died and came home, and I was grateful to be alive, mm-hmm. He decides to tell people he decides to call the police and say, I shook my daughter. And so then I took a nice trip to the psych ward. And then they professed to tell the church that, look, she's in the psych ward. She's crazy. So then they had a little piece of paper saying that I should be committed to the state ward. Well, that little piece of paper he held against me for a very long time. And so we left in a blizzard to go back to New York to get away from the situation. The therapist here said, why did you come back? He's your problem. I came back because he tried to use a little piece of paper for my integrity and who I was. And then I came to be 15 years known for the pleasure parties, 15 years of known as a business person you can know, like, and trust. And so guess what? What he said made no bearings, no nothing. And unfortunately, I pray for him now because he's in a nursing home and it's not having the quality of life that he should be having. And so I urge all of you that want to spew out poison, you're only going to poison yourself, because I don't think you should have judgments of other people and let people experience that, because that person could have been a bad person when you had an experience with them, but they may have went ahead and confronted themselves and realized, you know what, I'm a shitty person, I'm going to change. So that next they become friends with you, Brian, all of a sudden they have a new leaf with you. I can't hold them for how they treated me. I can say how they treated me, but you can say, Lynn, they're a new person, and everybody can be a new person every day.
And if you could literally beat yourself up over things that are, number one, irrelevant now. I mean, when they happened, like let's say something in high school or whatever that you were embarrassed by, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those people labeled you in such a way in that moment, right? Now, the reptilian brain would say that they're going to try to find evidence for that, right? Even though the time is irrelevant, how many years in the future.
Right.
Well, if they still have that belief, or if they still, even if they're in your life for that matter, if they relate to you in that way, they don't need to be in your life.
Absolutely.
Because
and that's
they're
just
irrelevant, that it's like people change, they grow up, they learn, come on.
yeah, I've got stories for other times where, my siblings had this persona of me, and they never realized why what they thought they knew was wrong. And as they got older, they said, hey, Lynn, we know that you were trying to survive. We know that wasn't you. We know this, and that. I didn't like being the disciplinary of my brothers and sisters, because my parents had to work and weren't around, and I had to spank their ass if they didn't do the chores. But you know what? When I spanked their ass, was a lot less ass spanking than when my parents would do it. But I've got a sister that still doesn't talk to me because she thinks, well, you spanked my ass when I was little.
It's interesting that the discipline of, I know you're a little bit older than me, but that honest discipline, which was carried down from parents and so on and so forth, it's amazing how that shapes people, right?
Yeah.
To learn the value of a dollar, to learn what it's like to respect people, be nice, be kind. But then when that's, just by, now I get it that there could be repercussions long term of that, but just what that, people learn quickly with that kind of discipline, right? Versus not being disciplined at all.
Right.
It's, somebody might hold a grudge that, you did that, but at the same time, they probably don't disrespect you or whatever that is anymore. You know what I mean? Like they know their boundaries,
Yeah.
instead of just walking all over people.
It's a trigger for me. My sisters, if they piss me off, I'm like, I'll just beat your ass. So they just know I can come back with that attitude, that I had once upon a time. But it definitely is. Today has been a very interesting show. We started out with just technical problems, you guys, and I didn't share this on my wall. I just had it on Live, Love, Laugh. It just is what it is, and we're just being real and raw with you guys.
This is no different than an improv scene that goes bad. Well, if there is one, they just may not go anywhere. Or you say butts a lot instead of yes and or something.
So butt yourself out, and that was the show.
It's like, time out. Let's do this scene for the third time. Here we go.
Oh, that's why I didn't want to do acting in school, because I was like, that's just too much freaking work. Instead, I just
one of the most inexpensive universal, and we'll probably be doing some shows about this in the future. Maybe we can team up with Bubba. Is the qualities and the traits that are universal in life, all through improv and acting.
Absolutely. Shakespeare had so much to do with that too. It's just amazing. I want to thank you guys all for being here. I think we're going to wrap this up.
Yeah. We got a question for you that want to see if you want to take on and consider. Lynn, you want to pop that up on the screen?
Yes. Tomorrow's question.
So we're going to start tomorrow's show, and yes, I will have a regular connection. So for tomorrow's show, if you want to take a couple minutes, and we'd love to have you tomorrow on the show. But the one question to impart to you to take on or consider is, what one thing are you confronting now? Now, as in this very moment in life.
Can I show them what our topic's going to be?
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay, the topic is going to be the distinction of thinking versus action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge, you guys. The reason why that's huge is because when you can realize that you can be any part of your life right now and start within yourself, ask you these questions and confront, it's amazing how this is your self work. And that's all we're trying to do is make you work to be who you want to be, not who we think you should be.
Yeah.
And that's one premise that Brian and I think as we do shows and we're so connected, and Brian still likes to have the hard ass, rigid self. And I'm able to fluff that up and make him look all more warm and fuzzy. But I know your heart, Brian. I don't care how hard ass you want to look or be. I just love you. And I thank you for being my partner in crime here.
I'm just a big teddy bear with with pretty, I'm a big guy, but I'm a teddy bear, and I've been molded and shaped in this world, and I'm just a big teddy bear. That's all it is.
Yep. And I love it. And I think God makes no mistakes when he puts people together. And I just want you guys to know we both do that. Anything and everything's possible because our backgrounds show that, right, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely. And for tomorrow, it's like, the deeper you want to go with this question, one thing that you're confronting now, the deeper you go with it, you might be surprised by what you access or uncover. It's kind of like sifting through a pile of papers that are really high. You got to get down deep if you're ever going to complete it. And the same thing is here. If you're willing to just take a step and look a little bit over the next, 24 hours or until our next show, it might help you. And that's what we want.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear from you in our inboxes. We won't use anybody's names, but they would be great topics and discussions. So we're here for you. You guys have a great day. Stay right there, Brian.
See you tomorrow.
We're going backstage. Bye.